Hello everyone, I'm Dominique Fauteur. I'm a research scientist at the Canadian Museum of Nature in Mammalogy. So one of the things that we do a lot here at the museum is identifying the animals that are brought to us by the public, for example. To do that, we can look at the fur, we can look at the shape, the form of the animals. For mammals, we can also look at their skulls. For example, for the animals that are much harder to differentiate because they look alike very much, one of the things that we're going to do is go straight away to the skull, because we know that's where most of the differences are. And within the skull, one of the parts that is extremely useful to identify the animals is the mandible. The mandible is very different between the different species, and even within species, for example, like between individuals, whether they are males, females, we can see differences. We can also see, at least estimate their relative age by the size of it. A functional aspect that is very cool with mandibles is that we often find them in owls' pellets, so things that they regurgitate after eating their prey. And the bones that we can find in those pellets, they are very useful to identify what they have eaten. So for example, if an owl has eaten a mouse and a vole, then we can easily differentiate the mouse and the vole thanks to those mandibles. So to study the diet of predators, a very useful part of the skull is the mandible. And one of the reasons why the mandible is useful is because we're going to often find them in the scats of foxes, for example. And the reason why is because the mandible, it's a thick bone, it's a very sturdy bone that goes through the digestive tract. And the mandible is very resistant to degradation, so it's gonna resist really well the acids that tries to dissolve the mandible. That's why we're gonna find that part of bone more often in their scats. And then having the mandible all clean, and we can easily identify what was the species that the fox ate, for example. Mandibles are just a small part of the skeleton of mammals, but it's actually packed with information. So whenever you find a mandible in the field or in the forest, you know you have something in your hands that can tell you a lot about the animal that you just found.